And welcome to another Royal Reviewer live channel episode. And I've just noticed I might have been flapping a little bit too hard because this fan is completely broken. Anyway, this is the kind of yellow celebrations fan. I hope you're all having a really wonderful day. Let's pop this back over there. Right, so it's been a while again since I've done a live chat, so we have a few recent things to catch up on. So, as people drop into the live chat, I will be trying to interact with as many people as viewer comments and questions as possible. If you're watching this on replay, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments box below. And if it's something really important, I may address it in an upcoming future video. So it's the 12th of July 2021, and last night it was the European Championships final, the Euros as we call it in the UK. Now, I don't watch football. I am not a football follower. It's not my game. I'm not really that interested, but when it's one of these big set piece events and it's your country playing, I do take an interest. And for the first time, probably since the Euros in 1996, I actually sat down and watched a football match. Wow, I know. I think my man points have gone up a notch. I think I'm actually butch now. Anyway, so I sat down with Matt and we watched the final. By the way, this is, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, football fans, but I think this is the first time that England has been in a final football match since 1966. The UK, England, goes on and on and on and on and on about our win of the World Cup in 1966. We have not won a football tournament of this scale since 1966. It was a big event. I wasn't around then, but still today, people in the UK go on and on and on about it. So it was a big deal that we finally got to a final and had a chance at winning a top prize in football, of which we, generally regard as our national game. So it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I remember back in Euro 96, I think we were knocked out at the semi-finals. I did watch that match. Nothing has happened really in the intervening period. So no wonder that it became such a big deal. Now, even the Queen got in on the action because she actually sent a message of support, which I'm going to read now. So this was issued just ahead of the match. By the way, we ended up losing the match. But anyway, so issued from Windsor Castle because the Queen is still residing at Windsor Castle. I don't think we are going to have any change from this going forward in the future. I think Buckingham Palace is going to be used mostly as a kind of office. The Queen will commute in between Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace when necessary. So I think the Queen has officially kind of decamped or moved to Windsor full time. So the England manager is Mr. Gareth Southgate, who is an OBE. So she addresses the letter to Mr. Gareth Southgate, OBE manager. 55 years ago, I was fortunate to present the World Cup to Bobby Moore, who later became Sir Bobby Moore, and saw what it meant to the players, management and support staff to reach and win the final of a major international football tournament. I want to send my congratulations and that of my family to you all on reaching the final of the European Championships, and send my good wishes for tomorrow with the hope that history will record not only your success, but also the spirit, commitment and pride with which you have conducted yourselves. Signed, Elizabeth R. Now, obviously the Queen presented the trophy, I do believe, back in 1966 to that winning team of the time under Captain Sir Bobby Moore. History was not to be repeated. Also, William and Catherine sent their own message of support. Many of the other members of the royal family sent their own messages of support ahead of the match. And obviously, the whole country was behind the England team. But we were playing against Italy, by the way. So we were playing against Italy, if you didn't know. Anyway, I sat down, watched the match. To my complete delight, in the stands, just as they were singing the national anthem, we saw William, Catherine and Prince George. Prince George Prince William has taken Prince George to some previous matches before. So it was really, really nice. People were speculating as to whether Prince George would attend the final. He did. Catherine was there too. Catherine recently come out of self-isolation. Obviously, she stayed self-isolated for the required time. Of course, she was alerted by the app, by the National Health Service app, and also by no, it wasn't the app. It was I'm getting something confused because someone in my own life got contacted by the app. No, it wasn't the app. She was told that someone that she had been in contact with had the COVID confirmed. So she was self-isolating, but she had all the necessary tests and stayed the required amount of days after having those tests. So she was out of isolation, and it was a person that she'd been in contact with at the Wimbledon, at a previous Wimbledon match. So she was out the day of the final football match, and she was at Wimbledon. She attended the wheelchair finals, as well as some other matches as well. So it was a very big sporting day for Catherine. She was wearing a glorious green dress for when she was meeting some of the people. So I'll just show you that amazing green dress. Can you see it on my screen? Isn't she looking fabulous? She is indeed looking absolutely glorious and resplendent and amazing. Now, I do like to see disability sports made more mainstream, because if you didn't know anything about my own background, I worked for over 10 years in a special needs educational setting, but also for people with complex medical conditions. And I absolutely love the Paralympics. I love disability sports, or we should be saying ability sports, because they are still sports people. And I love the fact that Catherine is championing these events and these sports people, men and women, who are very courageous and are getting themselves out there and taking part in recreational sport at the highest of levels. So I was really happy to see Catherine behind the wheelchair athlete. Basically, they are athletes, and I would like to see more integration, especially with the Paralympics, because at the moment we have a kind of separation between the Olympics and we have the Paralympics. I would like to see them all amalgamated and just have the games and have everyone kind of integrated. So maybe after you've had the 200 meters men's, you have the 200 meters men's wheelchair races, or you know what I'm saying. But anyway, I thought it was lovely that Catherine got a chance to meet Gordon Reed and Alfie Hewitt, glasses, following their fourth men's wheelchair doubles today. So Catherine had a really good day yesterday out at the tennis. Of course, she is a big fan. Again, not one of my favourite sports, but she loves it, so there we go. Also, the Duke of Kent is actually president of the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club. Now, it's kind of expected that when he eventually passes this on, it will go to Catherine. It is one of her big interests. So he was there presenting trophies and all that kind of thing. Catherine does also do a few things as well. But they kind of work together as a bit of a team when it comes to the tennis and when it comes to Wimbledon. Catherine is always there. In recent years, we have also had Meghan attending, the Duchess of Sussex, but obviously this year not, because she's in the USA. So where was I? Where did I get to? Oh yes, William and Catherine and George were there. I'm rambling today. I am rambling, so I hope you're up for a bit of a rambling video, because that's what I'm doing today. I'm just rambling at you. So I was really delighted to see them there supporting the team as a family unit. There was no Charlotte, there was no Louis. Either they just didn't really think that Charlotte or Louis were old enough, or just that they weren't interested enough. I think George is showing a really big interest in the football. So he was there. He was dressed in a really cute suit, and Catherine was wearing cream with kind of red earrings, obviously kind of trying to be the red, white, and the white and the red of the England flag. So she looked absolutely gorgeous. I'm just trying to find a really good photo. England scored in the first 3 minutes, and there was a lot of dubious celebrations. There we have Catherine hugging a very delighted looking George. Can you see? He was very, very animated, hugging. I was getting lots of Diana vibes with, Catherine, obviously showing, that she's not frightened to hug, to touch, to embrace in public, which I thought was really lovely. I'm trying to get a really good shot of the earrings. For those of you wanting the look, the earrings actually were really affordable. So I don't normally like talking about the really expensive clothes because for a lot of people it's not really achievable. But these earrings, they're £65, so they weren't too bad, to be quite honest. So if you did want the earrings, they are blaze red beaded earrings, and they are £65. I'm not quite sure if it says where they're from. Her blazer was from Zara, so again, it's kind of affordable. It was only $59.99. That's actually a bit of a bargain. Wow. The earrings are by Blaze. B-L-A-I-Z. Blaze. And they are the £65 red beaded beaded. They are not bearded. An earring can't be bearded. Do you know what? That would be something. Shall I invent a new range of bearded earrings? I think that would be amazing. So anyway, she looked gorgeous. William also in his usual typical suit, wearing his mother's Rolex watch that his mother bought him a few years before she passed away. Oh, here's a really cute picture of George. Look. Oh, isn't he cute? He's cute. Wearing a blazer, tie. Yeah. I think he's definitely going to be taking it. Oh, look. I forgot about this photo. That's obviously when we lost. Hand in head. Yes, head in hand. Head in hand. Beaded earrings and hands in heads. Yes, it's one of those kinds of days today. So basically, we lost on penalties. We had extra time, penalties, and then we lost. So, William's job was always going to be an important one at that match. He was either going to be, kind of celebrating and congratulating the team on their win, or he was going to be there to offer support, commiserations, to kind of uplift the team afterwards. So William was always going to have a role either way, whether the team lost or whether the team won. So yeah, he will have performed a function, a very important function, a very important duty as well, regardless of whether we won or lost. Incidentally, we lost. But there we go. Anyway, we have the World Cup next year, I do believe. So there is another chance for an England victory. I think the team is quite strong, actually. I did ask myself, is it because everyone else isn't playing very good? Or is it that we're actually really good? I don't know. I don't follow football, so you're going to have to enlighten me on that one if you actually know. Queen of Kingsbury. I was born the year that England last won. Yes, 1966. It's been a moment. It's been a moment. Catherine went from Wimbledon to Wembley in one day. It was a busy sporting day for the Duchess of Stamina. But basically, she does really love sport. So there we go. Yes, her name is Catherine, and people still call her Kate. But there we go. People search for it. The reason why I've done it is because people search for Kate. So whenever people are searching YouTube, they don't often put Catherine, they don't often put the Duchess of Cambridge. They mostly put Kate. In fact, I've even heard instances of people commonly typing in Princess Kate, which is completely the wrong title. So if you're wondering why I've put Kate in the title, it's because people search for Kate. Oh, Terry says, I never search for Kate. Well, I think you're one of a few that don't, to be quite honest, because I don't. I mean, I prefer either the Duchess of Cambridge or Catherine, to be quite honest. But there we go. What's my favourite sport? I like athletics because it's interesting and it's varied. I like a variety. I like swimming, winter sports like skiing, that kind of thing. My favourite sport to watch is actually the World's Strongest Men events. I actually quite like them because they're interesting and they're different. Lisa says, won't George be going to boarding school this year? Speaking of schools, so a lot of schools in the UK have said that the kids could stay up late to watch the football and they wouldn't mind them being in a little bit later. So George obviously goes to Thomas's school in London, not too far away from Kensington Palace. We don't believe he's going to boarding school yet. Now, obviously, Harry and William both went to boarding school after their prep school, after their preparatory school. At the moment, it's unclear as to whether George is going to spend any time boarding. Now, if he ends up going to Eton, that kind of school in his future, he may be boarding. But at the moment, we think things are staying as they are and that he will remain a day student. But we'll see. We'll see. Things can change. But it is coming up to that time where William and Catherine are going to have to make that choice. But also, I suppose it also depends on what George wants too, I suppose. Queen of Kings says, red bearded earrings I'm in. I'm into. I could do some... Although it kind of looks like I've got bearded earrings, doesn't it? Thank you, Dawn, who says condolences on the loss. It's fine. We're used to it by now. We're used to it. Terry says the Duke of Kent has stood down as president. Apparently there are no immediate plans to replace him, but Catherine would be the ideal choice. But it may be too much for her when she becomes queen. I've just read that he's still president. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's a really, really, really new announcement. But I've just read... Where did I read it? I've just read that he's still the president. Oh, it's his last, yes. So he's still president at the moment, but he's going to be standing down. I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Catherine has been prepped for this role. So I think I'm going to go out. Correct me in the future if I'm wrong. I will admit it if I'm wrong. But I think Catherine will take over. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you don't agree with me. But I think that she will take over. Absolutely. And I agree. I think she is the ideal choice. Oh, you say, but it may be too much when she becomes queen. I don't think so. I think when you're queen, you can take on hundreds and hundreds of patronages. And I don't think that Catherine is at capacity at the moment. Queen of Kingsbury says, world's strongest man events. I've never heard of it. Oh yeah, they have USA competitors all over the world, Europe, the UK, everything. Queen of Kings, yeah, I mean, it's parental choice as to whether you send your kids to boarding school at that age. Personally, I would have hated it, but you know, some kids thrive off going away to boarding school. For some kids, it really makes them. So, you know, I think it's up to personal choice, but also the personality of the child as well, to be quite honest. Lisa says, I wasn't sure what age kids typically go to boarding school in the UK. It depends. I mean, you can go from a very young age. There are sort of boarding capacities out there. Boarding school is typically privately educated, so that means parents pay for you to go. But yeah, it depends. It depends on your situation, I suppose. Lauren says, I went to a World's Strongest Man competition for my 30th birthday. Oh, I would have gone with you, girl. Yeah, I agree. I think she is the best choice for this role, says Lady Londinium. Hello to everyone who are just joining. Queen of Kingsbury says it's obvious for now Kate will take over. She's the natural choice. I think so. Christine suggests maybe someone in the Kent family. I think Catherine is being prepped. Well, has been prepped for it, to be honest. Terry Turner says the Danish royal children attend state schools. Well, good for them. I'm not quite sure it's necessarily appropriate for ours, but hey, in the UK, we never typically do what other European countries do. And I'm quite glad that we don't, to be quite honest. They can do them. You do you, boo. You do you, boo. Nicholas says, how is it possible that the Europe... What was in England? Oh, no. England is a European country. We are geographically Europe. We have not attached the UK to a tugboat and moved us. We haven't dragged ourselves away from Europe. We are European, but we opted as a country by a democratic vote, to leave the European Union of Nations. So we are not in the European Union of Nations, but we are still Europe. We are still European. The football match, the football competition is not linked to the European Union. So any country that is geographically in Europe can, as far as I'm aware, take part in the European Championship. So just thought I would clear up a few things there. Nancy says, now to get off the subject, but do you think when William is king, would he really expect Catherine to curtsy to him? It's not so much curtsying, because obviously she would be with him all the time. It's more the kind of traditional walking, I suppose, a couple of paces behind. If you notice on the thrones, when the Queen is delivering her message to Parliament, typically Prince Philip's throne, which was not there this time, for obvious reasons, was a little bit lower. The Queen's throne was higher. So there will be little nods to kind of William's position as king that will be there. So the thrones, Catherine's throne will be a little bit lower. She may, on certain occasions, be walking a few paces behind, pretty much as Philip did with the Queen. Basically, just look at how Philip was with the Queen. That's more than likely how Catherine will be when William is king. So use kind of how Philip was as a bit of a model. That's not to say there couldn't be any changes in the future, but I think they'll typically go with how Philip was with the Queen, basically. Lisa says, I've read that about Charles's experience at school. Yeah, Charles didn't like... Well, no, it's not necessarily that he didn't like boarding school. He didn't like that boarding school. He didn't like Gordonston in Scotland. It was a very rugged, very earthy, manly, very kind of what we would call today toxic masculinity. It was very manly. And, you know, if you put a very sensitive, thoughtful, quiet boy in amongst all of that masculinity, it wasn't going to work. Philip thought that it would toughen him up. Philip thought that he was doing the best by Charles. Philip thought that it was what Charles needed. But it wasn't. I mean, Charles ended up having a lousy time at school. He has spoken about that. His only solace really was the Queen Mother, because he went at the weekends to the Queen Mother, and she kind of, you know, pepped him up, ready to tackle another week. So yeah, it doesn't always suit the child, but that's not to say that if Charles hadn't gone to a different boarding school, he may have had a different sort of relationship with his education, basically. Yes, I think, Sterling, that Charles will be a worthy king. Also, you say if the UK royals did what the European royals did, Lilibet would have abdicated. Yeah, you know, it's common in the European monarchies for abdication to take place. I mean, that is a major no-no here in the UK. And the Queen most definitely will not be doing that. Nan says, what about curtsying in private? The royal family do curtsy to each other in private. Meghan confirmed that during the Oprah interview. Meghan thought that it was just kind of, you know, for show and for pomp and circumstance on TV. No, they do. But in terms of man and wife, I don't know. It's a bit of a tricky one. I mean, I guess you'd have to speak to someone who's actually witnessed it at first hand. It is a really good question. Do I think that Catherine will wake up in the morning next to William and, you know, curtsy to him? No, I don't think that. But, you know, when it comes to maybe meeting, you know, other people in public, if you're hosting events, yes, I think she will be courteous and she will display the king as he will be. the all the different courtesies that you would expect in public. But in private, I don't know about in private. But hey, I would like to be enlightened myself on that one. Have I heard about the secret dinner Charles and Harry were supposed to have had? I've heard about it, but there's something else I want to talk about that as well. So there was also rumours earlier that the Queen was seen visiting Frogmore to go and see Prince Harry. Now, I have a humongous issue with that because at the time that that was reported, Prince Harry was still in quarantine, which means that you can't meet anybody, even your family. So the Queen, members of the royal family have been very careful to be seen to be adhering to all of the COVID restrictions, and there's no reason to believe that they have strayed or broken away from it. Even if government ministers have, the royal family have, as far as I'm aware, been exemplary in sticking to the rules. So the Queen, I do not believe, would have driven or been driven, or driving herself as she does, to Frogmore Cottage to meet with Harry when he was supposed to be quarantining. I think what's more likely is that the Queen was seen in the Frogmore vicinity, either going to see the Yorks, who live not far away, or what is my personal guess, and I think it's quite a good guess, is that she was going to the main Frogmore house. So Frogmore Cottage, Frogmore House, two very different things. They're very close to each other, but they are not the same. The house was where the wedding reception was. It's used often for royal family kind of private functions. But what you may not know is that when the Royal Yacht Britannia was decommissioned, they actually had a lot of furniture left over. So that not all of the furniture that's on the Royal Yacht Britannia at present is actually the authentic furniture. A lot of the furniture, including the dining table, was actually put in Frogmore House by Prince Philip. They had all this furniture, didn't know what to do with it, so Philip decided to put it in Frogmore House. Now, periodically, the Queen likes, and Philip when he was alive, and members of the royal family, go to Frogmore House to have dinner at the dining table that was on the Royal Yacht Britannia. So it's my guess that the Queen was going to Frogmore House to have lunch, to have dinner at the table that was on Britannia. There is also a photograph, a painting of the Royal Yacht Britannia in there as well. So it's my guess that she wasn't going to see Harry, and that she was going to Frogmore House to have lunch at the table. So that's what I'm guessing, because I don't think that they would have broken the COVID rules. And in terms of Prince Charles meeting with Harry, I don't think Harry stayed around long enough to be able to have lunch with Charles. Don't forget, he was out of quarantine the day before the actual unveiling of the statue, and then he flew back pretty soon afterwards. So I don't know. Obviously, we aren't going to have any official confirmation if they met to have lunch, but time scale wise, I don't think it happened. I'm not saying it didn't, but I don't, just time wise, logistically, I don't think it happened. But there we go. I'm just trying to kind of read some comments. Queen of Kingsbury says Charles said he was picked on mercilessly for being pampered. I mean, you know, he's the heir to the throne. It was a different time. You know, the royal family was, you know, he would have been extremely pampered back then. And it wasn't the sort of place, Gordonstoun was not the sort of place where it was a good look to be pampered. Let's put it that way. Lauren says, I always find the heads of the monarchy particularly complicated. Why are women automatically queens but men are not kings? Yeah, because of the outdated systems of you know, that the king is a higher position than what a queen would be. So if you've got a queen regnant that marries a man, they can't necessarily be king. It's traditionally been prince consort, although that didn't happen for Prince Philip. I don't think he wanted it, to be quite honest. Ona says, what's my best friend was put in football as a kid, now he worries about, because of heading the ball. Yes, there has been talk about footballers that head the ball, that it could potentially cause issues later down the road with brain function. Yeah, I have heard all of that. Lisa says, as one whose school years weren't the happiest, I can relate to his feelings very well. Yes, doesn't always suit. Boarding school, but then again, some kids thrive in it. So, hey. Nicholas says, why do you think UK royalty shouldn't study at state schools? Not because of the quality of state schools. I do actually believe that we have very good quality state schools. I just don't necessarily think that trying to make the royal family exactly the same as the people, I don't think that's quite the right thing to do. It's often done in European monarchies, and you've got to ask yourself, really, around the world, which monarchy out of all the European monarchy is regarded as, I don't know, I'm not going to say better because they're all slightly different, but which one is looked at around the world, which one has the bigger spotlight is what I'm trying to say. And I think part of that is that it's not, our monarchy is not common. We don't put them in the same bracket as the common average person. There's nothing wrong with being a common average person. I'm one of them. I'm a commoner, but I don't want to see my monarchy the same as me. As a British citizen, I want to see, and I think a lot of British people feel the same way, I want to see the monarchy as different. I want to see them, going to private schools. I want to see them, doing a lifetime of duty and service in exchange for living in a palace, living in good homes, having security, having the cars and the transport. I don't know, it's more of a feeling. It's really difficult to describe a feeling, but I don't want the British royals to be the same as me. I don't want that. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. And I think that's part of the longevity and the success of the royal family. I worry for lots of other European monarchies as to actually how kind of devaluing the monarchy, if you like, if you want to look at it in that way, is actually going to serve them long term. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on that. Right, I'm going to kind of skip down a few comments. Oh, by the way, yes, Buckingham Palace is open. It's open for the summer season. They were getting all ready. That you can actually, for the first time, if you visit, you can wander around the gardens with an unguided tour. So you can have a self-guided tour. I think they've got it set up where there are staff along sets stationed around different points in the Buckingham Palace garden. So you can, if you want to speak to them about different points, you can speak to them, and they will be extremely knowledgeable about all the different things in the garden. So do go and check that out. It was closed last year, so when I went to London last year, we couldn't go in the Buckingham Palace. We went in the Royal Mews, we went in the Queen's Gallery, but we could not go in the main palace. So it is open this year, and it should be really, really good. So whether or not I'm able to get there, I don't know, but I would definitely really, really like to. Just trying to see if there's anything else. Oh yes, following on from the football theme of this chat, there is also a very serious point to make as well. So, via Twitter, I've seen it on Twitter, but there were also lots of press releases as well. Prince William, on behalf of himself and the rest of his family, and of course Catherine, released a message. And I'm going to read it in full, then we'll just talk about it. So, he says, I am sickened by the racist abuse aimed at England players after last night's match. It is totally unacceptable that players have to endure this abhorrent behaviour. It must stop now, and all those involved should be held accountable. W for William. So he's talking about racism in football, and there has been talk for a long time now about a racist abuse, actually a lot from the spectators, against non-white players. And following on from last night's match, the penalty shootouts, a lot of the penalty shootouts were taken by non-white players, and those players have been having a lot of racial abuse, in particularly via social media. I think a lot of the racial abuse, it still goes on, but there have been improvements on the pitch in terms of the crowd and the spectators. A lot of the rules are being enforced totally, and a lot of people that show racial abuse in the crowds, if they're seen doing it, if they're caught doing it, they will get banned. And they have spectators have been being banned. So I'm not saying it's completely ended for a spectator, but it's better than it was. Still shouldn't be happening, but it's better than it was. But the real problem is online. So these players have been getting a lot of online hate via Twitter, Instagram, all the different various social medias, where it's a lot more difficult to police than than actually being physically in a stadium full of people doing it. So William has responded to that by giving out that message. He's been sickened by the abuse. He's called it totally unacceptable, and he's saying it must stop, and all those involved should be held accountable. So I think it is good that he's taking a stand against that sort of abuse that the players are having to endure. As president of the Football Association, as a football fan, he feels really, really strongly about that, and he's responded really quickly. So I think a lot of people are really pleased, not that he's had to do it, because he shouldn't have to be in a situation where he's having to say that, but where it has happened, he's called it out. So I think that is really good. And if you just take the Twitter account of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, 2.2 million followers, that message has gone out to a lot of people. So I do think that was really good and essential of William to do that. Now I'm going to go over to the comment section and just see what people are saying, and then we will move on. How far am I from London? About 2 hours on the train, I would say. Sterling says, what aspects of European royals would I like to see in the UK's royals and vice versa? I think, I don't know, it's a bit tricky. I am perfectly happy with the way that our royal family operate. I think it allows our royal family, as long as they play by all the different rules, kind of unofficial rules, it allows our royal family to operate at a non-political level, kind of not doing any of the activities for financial gain. A lot of the European monarchies, if you are a working member of the royal family, you actually receive a set salary. I think at the last time I checked, it was round about £1 million, or the equivalent of, in that European currency, for doing and partaking in royal duties. So they receive a salary, so it's almost like a proper salary job. I don't necessarily think that's a good way of doing it. I like to see that separation between the financial side of things and the duty side of things. I think it works, it all being kind of intermingled and as one, and it does work, providing that everyone knows what they get from the relationship. So the country knows that by supporting the monarchy and the full-time working royals, that they get a lifetime of dedication and service. Where the monarchy will not, those working royals will not use their position to get their own personal financial gain. It works. So in terms of what I would like to see from the different European monarchies, I don't think there is really anything that I would like to see. I'm happy with the monarchy in the UK operating in the way that it does. That's not to say that it won't change in the future, to incorporate and move with the times, but I'm actually kind of quite happy with it the way it is, to answer your question, to be quite honest. Let's go down and see. La Rumba says, I like the name, La Rumba. The last time a black player was abused, the person was an Irish teenager. People write in England on social media doesn't mean all the abuse is by England fans. No, it can come from anywhere. But yeah, it's a lot more difficult to police when it's online. It could be coming from anywhere. You really don't know. People hide behind computer screens. People hide behind their keyboards. But the one thing we can say is that it's not right. Nicholas says, one of the things, maybe the only one, is how beautiful looks in the ceremonies, but I cannot stand the same family that supported apartheid until the 90s, not returning back what was stolen. The Queen has had, if you're talking about apartheid, the Queen had a magnificent relationship with Nelson Mandela, one of truly mutual respect. I think Nelson Mandela was the only person to call her in public Elizabeth, and she called him in turn Nelson, and it was actually a really lovely relationship to witness at the time, you know, that Nelson was alive, and they remained really good friends all the way through, until Nelson sadly passed away. So yeah, I think, you know, the Queen regarded Nelson as an equal, and when you think about the kind of the world that Nelson Mandela came from, that must have been, you know, such a good feeling to have known that you are being regarded as an equal, by a queen that has, you know, had familiar links to all the different things that have gone on in the past. So it was a really special relationship. It was one that had a lot of value and meant a lot to a lot of people. And it's one that, you know, I think, you know, led the way to a much better world. Not a perfect world, but led the way, paved the way, set the way for, you know, where we're hopefully heading today. And I think to kind of not look at that and see it as a celebration, as something to celebrate, is the wrong way of looking at it. So yes, I think the Queen and Nelson Mandela had a truly beautiful relationship, one of equals. Oh, Terry, controversial. He says European royal ladies tend to be a bit more glamorous. But then you could also say, are they technically kind of, you know, looking too much for the looks? I don't know. But hey, Diana was glamorous. There you go. Terry says, European royals tend to get together a lot as well. The Scandinavians, Greek, Dutch and Spanish. Yeah, I mean, obviously the royal families are very much interlinked through marriage and all that kind of thing in the history. In the shared history that we do have. Queen of Kingsbury says, when will the Queen head to Balmoral this year? Does the whole family visit her there? I think Balmoral is going to be like a typical Balmoral stay. Last year it was an extended stay. We may see an extended stay. We're not entirely sure, but I think it's going to be more akin with what we're used to. We've had Royal Week, we've had Holyrood Week. The Queen then usually returns back to England, normally Buckingham Palace, but has been Windsor in the last recent years. And then she leaves for the summer, which is probably going to be this week, next week, if we kind of keep on schedule to what we would normally see. She will go to Craiggowan Lodge and stay for a couple of weeks while the main Balmoral castle is being prepared. So she has a kind of mini break on the Balmoral estate at Craiggowan Lodge, where she's actually very, very happy. and then she moves to Balmoral for the summer, at which point she is visited by lots of immediate family, extended family over the break. Now, you'd think that she'd have the room and capacity to host everybody all at the same time. She doesn't. The castle is very deceptive. It looks huge, but when you take into consideration all of the different rooms, the staff accommodation, they are still limited on space. There are different lodges and houses on the estate which members of the family do often stay in, but she's limited on space. She can't have everybody all at the same time, and she does like to spend quality time with her family, so they do visit kind of periodically throughout the summer period, throughout the Queen's stay. So normally the Wessexes over the last couple of years have been the first to have been spotted. It's always a good clue who's there as who attends church. Now, of course, last year we didn't get any of that. We didn't get many of the church sightings, so stay tuned to see who's going to be attending the different church services once everything's relaxed here in the UK regarding all the COVID rules. But normally the Wessexes kind of come quite early, stay a couple of times throughout the period, are there probably the longest. The Yorks go, Beatrice, Eugenie, the Duke of York. Sarah Ferguson is often seen there as well, although not prominently, but she does often go at the Queen's invitation. And it could be different this year for Sarah. She could even potentially be staying in the main house. We'll have to wait and see if we get any information about Sarah's stay. Of course, the Cambridges go and often stay in one of the lodges on the estate. She's visited by, many of her grandchildren. In recent years, Meghan and Harry and Archie and had an invitation. They didn't choose to go, but they have been invited. It's will an invitation have been offered to them now? We don't know. Do they plan on coming back? I don't think Harry and Meghan will be back this year. I don't think it's a coincidence that they moved the Well Child Awards from September to when Harry was here for that brief period for the unveiling of the Diana statue. So I think, to me, that was an indication that he doesn't plan coming back in September for the Well Child Awards, or else why would you not just leave the Well Child Awards, especially when there was talk about all the restrictions being relaxed by that time anyway. So to me, it was a bit of an indication that Harry doesn't plan coming back this side of Christmas anyway. So whether an invitation would have been offered and potentially refused, I don't know, or declined, I should say. But no, I don't think we'll be seeing Harry and Meghan there. But many of the other Queen's grandchildren will be there, and the Queen really does enjoy her time at Balmoral. H.M. the King says the Queen is sovereign of 15 states and far more people than any other European monarch. That is a good point. She has been on the European royalty scene for 75 years. She has, and I don't think she's going to be giving it up anytime soon, often knowing the grandparents and current monarchs. Yes, I think there was a photograph a few years ago now, it's probably more than what I'm imagining, because time has gone so quick, where the Queen was kind of with lots of the European monarchy, and she definitely took the lead. I mean, they all looked to her. Age, deference, the fact that she's been around a long time on the throne, all probably played a part in it. But yes, Hayton the King says, easy to see why she is treated with reverence. Exactly. There is a lot that other European monarchies just don't have with our current Queen. And I think we will see a bit of a continuation with Prince Charles as well, because he's still, although he's not been king all these years, he's been around and he's had the experience, especially within the Commonwealth as well. Right, I'm going to read the Queen of Kingsbury. Do you think Harry and Meghan will be at the Trooping the Colour next year? Now, next year is a different kettle of fish altogether. We have the Jubilee celebrations, and I do believe that an invitation will be sent out to Harry and Meghan. Whether or not they accept it is another thing entirely. Whether they choose to return for the Jubilee celebrations, the platinum, again remains to be seen. It is entirely up to them. If they do, it will be in a personal capacity as family members. And of course, Trooping the Colour is a family event. We see extended members of the royal family, non-working royals, on the balcony, traditionally every single year. So it's possible. But whether or not they will, I don't know. Well, we will have to wait and see. The member says the anti-apartheid movement started in Britain in the Church of England, of which the Queen is head. Yeah, and you know, Britain has played a part in colonial history from when it began, but also it's important to not forget that Britain also had an instrumental part in dismantling it as well. So yes, and I think the relationship, going back to Nelson and the Queen, that relationship, I think, really showed how far things had come. Even though there was this kind of unequal history involved, it kind of culminated in a likening of interests, in an equal partnership, in viewing of being equal. And I think that was a really beautiful thing to see in our lifetimes, in many of our lifetimes. But it's important not to forget it. Do you think the Queen did not like Diana? No, I don't think the Queen didn't like her. I think the Queen didn't understand Diana. I think a lot of people didn't understand Diana. But we maybe talk about that at a different time. There's a lot to unpick there. Nancy says, I never heard of a different kettle of fish. Yeah, that's a really English phrase, I guess. H.M. the King says, Queen Elizabeth II and the Japanese Emperor and the King of Saudi Arabia are probably the top tier. Yeah, if you want to think of kind of top tier monarchies, I would say that you're right in terms of longevity and everything else. Sterling says, am I still doing the video on what I really think of Harry and Meghan? I don't know whether people want it. I mean, do people want it? Have things moved on? I don't know. I mean, I think I've moved on, but if people would like a video, then I'm more than happy to do one. But yeah, I've moved on. I don't know if you've all moved on, but let me know in the comment section. I'm more than happy to oblige. Queen of Kingerby says, I have a natural curiosity to see Harry's children, Archie and Lily, just because they are Prince Charles and Diana's grandchildren. I think a lot of people have interest in Harry and Meghan's children, and I think that's always going to be the case. I think regardless of whether Harry and Meghan chose to step back to be more private, there was always going to be, and there always will be, a continued public interest in their children. And of course it is up to the parents, it's up to Harry and Meghan what they choose to put out there of their children. It is their choice. And it's not up to the public to demand photographs or demand videos. But I do think that now that you are stepped back, now that you are earning your own money, and of course your family has connections to the royal family, how you choose to put things out, in what capacity, money changing hands for these sorts of things, does now kind of come into play. It complicates things a little bit more being stepped back. I think a lot of people thought that it would really simplify things, but it doesn't really free Harry and Meghan of criticism. If Harry and Meghan thought that by stepping back it was going to free them of criticism, I don't know if that's what they thought, but it hasn't, and I don't think it will. If that's what they wanted, what they've done was not really the way of going about it, I don't think. Elaine says, I'm like Princess Anne in that regard, in not being interested in their children. Let's have a look. Queen of Kingsby says, sure, why not about the video of what you really think about Harry and Meghan? I suppose you've moved on, I understand. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not ever going to speak about Harry and Meghan again. I've spoken about them today in this video. But, you know, it's more of an incidental capacity, I suppose. Lauren says, I think it's very interesting how we have not seen a picture already, seeing as the media follow them everywhere. Well, I mean, again, it's that thing of privacy, and you know, and also how Harry and Meghan are, you know, protecting them, I suppose. So yes, the media know that if they don't play by Harry and Meghan's rules, which they've clearly laid down by how they've you know, said about suing, or that they have successfully in some cases sued for unofficial photographs, or they've had apologies. I think that's all playing a part in the fact that we haven't seen any pictures. But then, like I say, it complicates things when they then decide to put things out themselves, because people question the motive of it, even though there might not be any motive there. So it complicates things a little bit more. Right, okay, I think I've been yakking at you for 55 minutes, so I'm going to leave you for today. I will be back. I will be doing lots more of these kind of daily updated chats. So if you do have a really burning, pressing question, ask me in the comment section below, and I will, if you really want to know the answer to something, I will write it down and address it in an upcoming video. So thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. From me in Shropshire, mwah to you all, and goodbye.